In October 1962, the world, it nearly ended. But most people, they didn't even know. A U.S. Air Force pilot named Major Richard Haser. He flew a U-2 reconnaissance aircraft more than 70,000 feet. That's 21,300 meters above western Cuba. From that altitude, the island, it looked peaceful. Green fields, beautiful villages. But the photographs that he brought back to Washington, D.C., showed something entirely different. In those images were long, narrow launch pads, concrete roads, and cylindrical objects about 60 feet, 18.3 meters long. Soviet R-12 medium-range ballistic missiles. Each could carry a nuclear warhead capable of destroying an American city within minutes. The missiles had a range of roughly 1,200 miles or 1,930 kilometers, placing Washington, D.C., New York, and the majority of the southeastern United States all within reach. The discovery, it wasn't random. U.S. intelligence analysts had watched Soviet freighters unloading defensive equipment for months. Those ships carried crates marked as tractors. But believe it or not, they were actually filled with missile parts. Premier Nikita Khrushchev wanted parity. The United States had already placed its Jupiter missiles in Turkey and Italy, just 1,500 miles or 2,400 kilometers from Moscow. The Soviets now sought an equal threat, positioned only 90 miles, 145 kilometers from Florida. When President John F. Kennedy received the photographs October 16, 1962, he immediately formed a secret advisory group, the Executive Committee of the National Security Council, or EXCOM. In that tight circle sat men like Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, and General Maxwell Taylor. The tone, it was sober. You see, for the first time in history, an adversary had stationed nuclear weapons within a short flight of the U.S. mainland. While leaders debated in Washington, life outside went on as usual. In classrooms, children who played duck, duck, goose actually went ahead and started practicing duck and cover drills beneath their desks. It was a sign of the era. In Miami, radio operators, they scanned static-filled channels, wondering what the next broadcast might bring. And October 22nd, families gathered around black and white television sets to hear their president speak. President Kennedy's address, it lasted 17 minutes. His words were measured, his expression calm. He announced that the Soviet Union had secretly installed offensive missiles in Cuba, and that the United States would impose a quarantine around the island, an 800-mile, 1,287-kilometer naval barrier enforced by more than 180 American warships. The word blockade was avoided deliberately. Under international law, that would mean war. As the quarantine tightened, 20 Soviet ships approached the line. The U.S. Navy tracked them by radar, sonar, and radio intercepts, and for hours the world waited to see who would yield. One ship stopped just short. Another turned back. And the rest slowed and drifted. No missiles were ever launched, no shots ever fired. Yet never had silence felt so dangerous. 2 days later, Khrushchev sent a letter offering to remove the missiles if the U.S. pledged not to invade Cuba. The next day, a second message arrived, harsher, demanding that America also withdraw its Jupiter missiles from Turkey. Inside the White House, EXCOM argued which letter to answer. Kennedy chose the first. And through secret channels, he agreed to the second condition. On October 22nd, Khrushchev announced that Soviet missiles would be dismantled. And within 6 months, the United States removed its weapons from Turkey. And the world, it stepped back from the brink. 13 days of fear, strategy, and restraint. It all had defined the most dangerous standoff in human history. For one Florida mother listening to Kennedy's speech, it meant something simpler. She wrote in her diary, "I just hope my children get to grow up." The Cuban Missile Crisis, it revealed how fragile peace can be, and how much it depends on human reason in the face of fear. It all began with one U-2 flight, one reel of film, and one moment of courage on both sides that ultimately kept the world alive. These are Interesting Things with JC.